Good morning. I knew I was gonna forget that, and I did forget it, unfortunately. Oh well. Welcome back to the Devmentor Dave YouTube channel. We are streaming live this morning. Not sure how long we'll go. Maybe an hour or two. Probably about an hour, but I don't think we'll go today, just based on the content and things that I wanna get through. But welcome back. If you are somehow stumbling across this channel, I will explain kind of what we're doing here. But this is an opportunity for you, if you are a junior developer or even a senior developer, to jump in and jump in and say hello, kind of like Ming has. So feel free to jump in the chat, say hello, ask questions as we go along the way. Obviously, I have a plan for stuff that I'm thinking that we're going to do today, but more importantly, this channel is for you guys. So if there's something that that you have a question about, we'll dive in and take a look, and I'll at least give you my opinion. Feel free to agree or disagree, and we'll see how it goes. So welcome, Ming. Good to see you. He says, "Great to see you, Grandpa Dave. It's been centuries." It does feel like that. It absolutely feels like that. And I've only been on, I think, 3 times so far this year, trying to get back in more consistently, and get back on, since we had kind of left off for several months there at the end of 2025 and into 2026. But I've been wanting to get back to it. But honestly, was kind of enjoying my Saturdays, so and my evenings whenever I had time. So there's that. More and more white hair. Oh my. No, I think it's just more and more less hair, or less and less hair would be the correct response to that. So it's not going as gray as it is going away. So that's that kind of rhymed. What do you know? There you go. So anyway, welcome back again. If you're watching live, jump in the chat, say hello, join the conversation as we get going. It's been forever, me. How are things going with your situation there, since I haven't had a chance to talk to you? It's been several months. I know you had different things going from a job standpoint. Yeah, it's really tough. Yeah. So Dan says, "Man, I would give so much money to be gray, but actually have hair." Yep. I don't know. So when I was in college, I was in an opera. I was actually in 2 operas, not as any major singer, mind you, but I was both times. I was both. So I started off as a music major, and then I moved to a Bible major, and so both times that the first 2 years I was a music major, and you had to be, because I was a voice proficiency, you had to be in a choir. Well, I wasn't good enough to be in any of the main choirs on campus, but my private voice teacher there was in charge of the vocal choirs for the operas, because I think they did an opera every year at the school that I went to. So I had the opportunity to sing in a couple of different choirs in an opera. But anyway, all of that to say, the first one that I did was I was in the priest choir for Aida. And if you don't know anything about Aida, Aida is written by Vivaldi. I think so, yeah. And it's set in Egypt. And so the priest choir was a bunch of bald priests, Egyptian priests. And so, of course, it was all in Italian, which was also fun. But yeah, so we all had to wear bald caps. And so I've actually seen, without the goatee, I didn't have my goatee at the time. So I've actually seen sort of what I look like without hair. And I guess seeing that has kind of made it okay. So like, I don't care quite as much that there's that the hair is leaving. It doesn't bother me that much. So I wouldn't pay all of that big statement to say I would not pay a lot of money to get my hair back. So I'm okay with it going bald. And I just wish I could grow like more hair here. That's the thing. So it doesn't grow very well. So this is getting weird for anybody who doesn't usually watch this. If they stumble across this and they hop in for the first 10 minutes, they're gonna be like, "What is this thing about?" So no, but I can't. This is you can't even see it. This is a week's worth of growth right here. I haven't shaved since Sunday morning, so there you go. Dan says I've shaved my head before, but my wife doesn't like it. I did shave. I've only shaved my once I grew my beard. I didn't have it when we were married. Once I grew my beard, I shaved it one time, and my wife told me never to do that again because I looked like I was 12 years old. So I don't think I would look that young if I did it again now. But all right, let's get back to what Ming was saying. Let's see. Got a call back from a hackathon. I did see you were doing a hackathon. That's cool. Final round is Monday, and I have to do a React live coding test plus a technical discussion. Now, here's a good question. When you're doing your live coding tests, are they allowing you to do to use AI for any of that? I would be really interested in that because we at my company we're moving to uh, incorporate AI more and more in our process flow. So I would think if there's somebody that would be if we were hiring and we were interviewing people, I would want to know how they use AI and I want to see how they use AI because we're building standards internally for that. So that would be interesting if they let you. AI is prohibited. Yeah. See, it's funny because if you guys remember, not less than 2 years ago, I was telling junior devs don't use AI. I still don't think junior devs should use AI heavily because you need to learn and know what you're doing and understand what AI is doing. Um, but we've reached a point where if AI is not part of your workflow, in fact, my goal today is to kind of walk through some of that. If AI is not part of your workflow these days, um, I just don't think, I think you're going to get behind very, very quickly. So that stinks that it's prohibited. CTO headhunted me at the U hackathon and said there's 40 React front end roles to be filled. 40 React front end roles. Good grief. 40 roles? Is this a recruiting company or is it like an actual firm? That's crazy. They want me to build a React to do app. Have you been practicing? It seems like that's something you could probably do pretty quickly, right? You just kind of get that filled out. I don't, do they or will they let you use any frameworks or anything like that? That would be again like so. These are things that like if I were interviewing, I would want to know what are you bringing to the table, not just in terms of development skills, but in terms of like thinking through how we can do this better and more consistently, right? So if you came in and you said, well, I'm going to build the React app using, this specific CSS framework and things like that, right? So I don't maybe they're requiring you to use Tailwind or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, I would definitely be jumping into something like that. Hey Mel, good to see you. I would definitely jump into something like that and ask if you can use specific things, not because you have to use them, but because that's the type of stuff that gets used in a real work environment, right? Companies that are smart are using frameworks, so it just makes it easier to learn and grow and move quickly, right? It's less that you have to learn. You've got documented processes. Another great thing about frameworks is AI uses frameworks really well. So that's another piece of it. It's actually a firm working with pensions and fintech. Oh, interesting. That's really cool. And you said Monday. You said final round is Monday. Yeah, a Monday. Okay, awesome. Well, hopefully that goes well, man. Keep us posted. Drop a line in the Discord. I'll see if I can if I can jump in there. By the way, so I am working on an update to the Dev Mentor Dave website. It looks nothing like what we built. Because I have some other things on the side that I might hook into the Dev Mentor Dave platform, but I want to also build more of a community in the website itself, and kind of provide some other things. I have some ideas for this year as to what I want to do with that. So the Discord server will probably be going away at some point this year, because I'm going to move everything over to, I'm not going to move content, but I'm going to move to not using Discord and move actually to the website and have a hosted community there. There's lots of other places you could do that. I just don't want to pay for them if I'm already paying for a website, so I can just host it there, right? Plus, I should know how to build these things, so I'm going to build it. Well, let's be honest, AI is going to build most of it, so there's that. Dan says, I hate React so much. And means like, can we use React for the site? Oh, that's awesome. Mel says, yay, host community site. Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Excellent. Yeah, I just feel like I want more control, and I don't need all the bells and whistles. And there's some other pieces to it that I want to be able to build in for the future. Got some projects that I think will be good, not only for junior devs, but also for businesses and things like that. So lots of ideas. We'll see how it actually pans out over this coming year. Finally got some things calmed down a little bit from the business side. I love React from Ming. There you go. I need to get back to working on, I think I accidentally deleted my file that pulls the chat messages into the screen so you can see them as they pop up. I don't know. I don't know if do you guys even do you guys like seeing the chat on the screen? I don't know. It's honestly mostly annoyed me when other people do that on their live streams, because if you're in the chat, you can see the chat. So I don't know. It didn't feel right to me. So we'll see. Let's see. I know I've missed some messages here. Let me just run back through. Dan says, have any thoughts on solo term? My only thought is I don't know anything about it. Let's take a look. Solo term. Automation company? Is that what I'm looking for? Your agentic dev environment. Oh, I see. This is really interesting, Dan, actually, because I didn't do any research on this, but I actually started building my own that looks very, I mean, it doesn't look the same, but very, very similar concept. But I might have to use this instead, because I like this idea. So my idea was, I'm not full-time deving. Oh, it's from Aaron Francis. Oh, nifty. I do like Aaron Francis. Oh, duh, right here, aaronfrancis.com. That's funny. That is cool. No, I literally, like, I was showing my coworker what I was working on. Very, again, similar to this, but not exactly the same, but very, very similar. So, but here's the deal. So why I was going this direction, probably the same reason why he went this direction. He just has more money and time than I do. So the more I get into developing with AI, I was finding myself really wanting to have one place where I could see all my terminals, right, for Cloud Code specifically. And the thing about all these terminals is they're all over the place, and I wanted to be able to jump from one project to another and see again basically everything that it's showing here. Like this was my goal. But here's what I've been realizing more recently is that I actually really don't like the terminal. Um, it's a weird thing. I do like the terminal, but I don't like the terminal. Um, I like having Claude in my IDE because I like being able to go look at the code at the same time and see what's going on together, right? So, and maybe that's because I don't know. Maybe if I were like a Vim user or something, maybe that wouldn't be a big deal. I do use Vim somewhat. I'm not an actual like Vim user though. So maybe if I spent more of my time in the terminal, I don't know. I think this is cool because it's very similar to what I was working on. But I stopped working on it just because the more I tried to use it, the more I realized I still really prefer my IDE, having Claude in my IDE. Um, I don't know. I really like this idea though. So solo term is very cool. Um, download for free. What's the pricing? Unlimited projects, full featured, no trial, never expires. Unlimited projects, unlimited processes. Oh, up to 4 projects. 20 process still. I assume this is a SaaS thing. It has to connect to. I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, no, I like. I mean, it's hilarious that this is out there because I'm sure there's others that are probably out there as well. But like, I literally started building this for myself. Um, See, this is my thing. Like, not an IDE on purpose. Eh. This was obviously designed by Claude. So this is a very common Claude design. Now, it's common because it works, right? It's common because it gets the point across. It's a very common way of doing uh, your design for marketing purposes. And but I do think it's interesting. They've tweaked it, but this is a very common practice for Claude Code, kind of the hero section of the website. Um, oh, doggone it, Dan! Now I want to know what you said. So I think this is kind of interesting, but yeah, yeah, very cool, very cool. If I were to really want to do that more, um, but yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize Aaron Francis was building stuff like that. Let's see what else. Mel says when you're streaming to 2 platforms, it's better. But if just one YouTube, just use YouTube chat. Oh, okay, I gotcha. The chat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see why you'd want to be able to see multiple chats on the one screen. That makes sense. I get that. Okay. Uh, Dan says, I think most people don't like React. They like JSX and reactive JS. Use solid or quick or basically anything else. React's reactivity model is bananas. Yeah, not a huge fan of it. Uh, it keeps Grandpa Dave alive when chat is on the screen. Is that I don't know how that would work, but hey. Ming says, "What are your thoughts on candidates using AI completely for take-home assignment? I think this can be very subjective." Yeah, so that's the hard thing, right? So the hard thing is that you want to evaluate somebody's skills without um but you need to be able to do that in the world in which we live, right? So I think here's what I think I would do. And this is literally like off the top of my head because of this question. Well, let's just try it. Let's just try it and see. Let's see here. Oh, we'll do it in here. Oh, you can't see this. Hang on. Transition. Boom. All right, there we go. Let's go to Claude. So, go ahead. Go away. Go away. All right. What I might would do is, oh, that's interesting. Opus 4.6. Oh, I have not tried this yet. Let's try using voice mode and see what happens here. Because I've not tried voice mode yet. Okay. Let's see. Yes. Create a one-page React application for displaying current weather conditions, but I want you to include bugs in the code, period. So, shoot. See, I've not used this before. This is what happens. Okay. Stop. It's not doing anything. All right, let's go back to typing. Okay. Create a one-page React application for displaying current weather conditions, but I want you to include 10 bugs in the code. Some bugs should be simple syntax bugs, but others should be breaking bugs. Mix between React and CSS. And issues. All right, so this will be interesting to see what it does here. So here's the idea, Ming, is that we instead of giving somebody a task that they have to build, give someone a task that they have to debug. And I would have them do that live. Instead of building something live, have them go through code live, because that will show you how somebody thinks, how somebody analyzes, and it'll also show you how they deal with problems, right? Because again, we're in a day and age where AI is used a lot. And so I would want them to be able to use AI, but I want to be able to evaluate what they're doing and how they're doing it, right? So I want to know their skills, and I'm not going to probably know their skills of development. Having somebody write code in front of you is very, very it makes them feel like they don't know what they're doing, right? It's high anxiety. Having them debug something is a much lower anxiety, at least in my opinion. It's one thing to say, go build this. It's another thing to say, find the issues, right? I just feel like debugging is almost more practical now than building is. And of course, even now you can use AI to debug, but I think debugging shows that they understand what is written and they understand what's wrong with what is written, right? So, it says, here's the app, but where's the app? And now we've lost all of our context. That's interesting. Shipping broken code on purpose. Okay. Now, see, I want to be able to see the code. So this is not as helpful as I wanted it to be. Buggy build version 1. Okay. So there's that. But can I see? Here we go. Download file. Download. Open. Okay. Let's see here. Can I inspect this? Is that going to be helpful at all? I don't feel like this is React. Is it React? Oh, here's the React code. Okay. All right. So what you could do is give somebody this HTML file. This isn't React. Is this a React app? Of course it's not. Ah, stupid Claude. I told you what I wanted and it just ignored me. Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, no, we're not going to do that. Anyways, it looks wrong already. Yeah. Here's the first problem. The first problem is it's not actually a React app. There you go. So good catch. Good catch. You're hired. So, but I think this is what the route that I would go, right? And maybe it's breaking changes so the app doesn't even load at all. See if they know what they're doing with getting the app up and running. I think that's where I would lean if I were trying to hire somebody who's like a junior dev, that I wasn't sure about their real technical skills compared to using AI. I would create something like this. Obviously not this, because this is not what I asked for. Thanks so much, Claude. But I would create something that is a file that they can open up. Maybe it's on a computer that I have them do there in the office. Or I have them share their screen and they have to do it live, right? They have to debug it live. So I think that's what I would do. Again, just off the top of my head, Ming, instead of doing something like a take-home thing, because you don't know what they're doing with that, right? You don't know if they're using AI. And again, in my opinion, using AI is not bad or wrong, but you've got to know what to do with it. I just want to know why New York. Oh, this is probably one of the bugs. This is probably one of the bugs that they introduced. I just think it's hilarious though. New York's 162 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Yeah, so that's the direction I would go. If I felt like I needed to do some sort of coding thing, I would rather see somebody debug something, maybe even tell them that AI wrote it, and have them debug it and see what they find along the way. Because again, debugging tells you that they know what it should look like and they know how to find the issues in it. So I think that's a much better, and you can do that in person with less anxiety than you can building, in my opinion. At least, I mean, it's always easier for me to debug in front of somebody than it is for me to write code in front of somebody. Because debugging, you're not thinking, what do I need to do? Debugging, you're thinking, what is wrong with this, right? So that's the direction that I would go in. All right, you guys were chatting a whole while I was sitting there waiting for that. Let's see. So we talked about that. I use NeoVim, but I'm lazy, so I don't have a config, which means no line numbers. Reminds me of when I used Notepad before Microsoft ruined it. Yeah. I tend to, if I'm on a server, I'll use Vim. But I really need to work on my commands. I don't have a good grasp of the commands, quite frankly. Despite all of the Primogen videos I've watched on it. Ming says I completed an extensive Next.js take-home assignment completely with AI and made it to the final round. Yeah, and see, so here's my thing. My takeaway on that is that's fine as long as you know what you're doing. Now I know you. I've known you long enough to know that you know what you're doing, so that wouldn't bother me. But again, to your point, they don't know what you've used AI on, what you haven't used AI on. I would almost assume if I'm giving a take-home assignment that they're probably going to do a large portion of it in AI, if not all of it in AI. And that's why again, for me, that doesn't necessarily tell me what you know and how you can catch AI in failures and things like that. So let's see. Linux Mint only downloads older versions of NeoVim. Oh, you're running Linux Mint? Okay. Uh, all this conversation about NeoVim. Let's see. Mel's learning Linux. Awesome. All right. React runs virtual is it's just running JSX code. My friend is in construction wants me to check his code build with replit. Is it replit or replit? I don't know. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. Hey, I checked in and it's all it's all wrong. Now, one thing I do like is using AI for prototyping, and we'll do that in our project. Um, if we ever get back to it here, we'll do that in our project. We'll probably use some sort of AI prototype generator. I like prototype generators because they allow you to build something that's interactive for the client, but they're also oftentimes at least a good step forward, even though the code might not be that great. It's a good step forward in making sure that the client knows what they're getting and likes what they're getting. And AI often does a better job of taking something like an existing code base like that and porting it over. Maybe it's done in React and you want it in Vue. It can port it over in Vue very easily, and you can manage then the guidelines around that as well. So I really like prototype. Things like Lovable, Base 44, Replit, all those things. I think those are good for prototyping, in getting feedback from the customer. But you've got to make sure that the customer knows this is not very much of this is production quality code and process. So that's my only thing with that. But yeah, it is interesting some of the things that those builders make when you use them. Even for the Next.js take home, this senior dev was like, I hope you used AI to complete it. Yes, nice. Like exactly. Like we should expect people to be using the tools and know how to use the tools that are available to them. So that's perfect. Have a good night, Mel. Thanks for jumping on. Awesome. All right. Well, let's jump back over to our project, and especially for Ming, since I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the last couple live streams that we did, but just to kind of re-explain what we're working on. So for a number of years now, I've done kind of some website updates and things like that for a company that I backed years ago called Solar Roadways. And their goal is to build solar roadways. But really, their goal is to build, they're starting off like sidewalks and I almost said parkways. Sidewalks in parkways. No, I'm not good with British accent. So sidewalks and parking lots and things like that is kind of more the concept at the moment. Maybe someday something like the roads, but I think they'll be perfectly happy getting a lot of parking lots and things like that. Maybe someday like a tarmac, that would be cool. I don't know if they could handle the weight of a plane, maybe, but we'll see. So anyway, very, very cool technology, built-in heater system, uses LEDs for the really anything. You can create all sorts of designs and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I knew this was the first time you were back, Ming. That's why I'm kind of go over this again. So here, the problem is their website is very old and ugly, and they're right in the middle of a campaign to raise funds, and I want to build a better website for them, partially because they're currently using WordPress, and not that WordPress is wrong. It's just there's lots of plugins and things, and I want to build something I think it's going to be easier for them to maintain on their own. And so we're building an application with Laravel, and we are using, I think we're going to use React with a Postgres database. And I want to show you how I would build a website like this. Some of the pages are going to be static pages that we create that we specifically want to look a certain way. Some pages will be more dynamic, where they'll have the ability to add content on there. So no, I don't want Next.js. I don't want two separate things. I want everything to be monolithic. One repo. So, so that's the direction we're going to go. And so let me pop over here and show you the current website. Whew, hopefully you're pick yourself back up off the floor. There actually used to be more content on here, and they went in and removed it from the homepage. So one of the things that I want to do is help them think through their users, their target audiences. And so last week we talked about the different types of target audiences that would be interested in their information, right, or in their website. So we had 4 target audiences. I'm just going to switch it. I'm switching it over to Livewire just because of that. So there's four target audiences that we're looking for. The first target audience would be somebody who is interested in what they're doing because they're really big into like environment friendly technology, right? So they're not necessarily interested in purchasing it, but they want to follow and they want to support somebody who's going in that direction, right? So that's audience number 1. Audience number 2 is somebody who is interested in technology. And they just find the technology interesting. That's kind of more the route that I am interested in, although I have invested a little bit in the company as well. So you've got the eco-friendly, the technology-friendly, and then you have people who are interested in the product itself to be able to install it in their walkways, in their driveways, in their parking lots, different things like that. He says this site's more ancient than Grandpa Dave. It feels like that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So that's the third one, and then the fourth one would be people who are looking to potentially invest in a company that they think is going to be a really good company in the days ahead. So you kind of have 4 audiences. Now, when you're building a website, you want to make sure that your design, that your content, and everything works around those audiences to be able to direct them to the information that's going to be most interesting to them, as well as make sure that they want to come back, right? So you want a good design, but you also want your content to be structured in such a way that is that draws them in. You can do that in several ways. One way is to have specific landing pages for each target audience. Typically, if you do that, you're going to be sending people from external websites like Facebook or from advertising to those specific places. But if you have multiple audiences, a lot of times what you really need to do is have your main homepage be sort of eclectic, but help people find the thing that they're looking for based on their audience type, right? So we have those 4 audiences, and what I want to do, even though I have been helping with this website, keeping it up and running for several years, I haven't had the chance to really redesign it. And even though I've been doing it for a while, I haven't really even looked at all the content that is in there. There's a lot of different pages that the owners have put in over time. There's a lot of old content that maybe isn't relevant anymore. They're on what they call SR5, which is version 5 of their product. So I'll just give you a look here. So they're hexagonal. What do you call them? Panels, hexagonal panels, and there's lots of information about them. You can go in here, you could find out how it all works. Lots of videos, but as you can see, like there's some issues. Okay, there's some issues, and it's not really my job to go there and fix all those issues. It's more just kind of keep things updated and add things when they request things to be added or fixed. So it's not, I haven't been doing like a whole like site management project on this. So for me, step number 1 is we've defined those probably 4 main audiences. So now I need to research this website. We're getting there, Ming. We're getting there. I need to research this website and figure out what content is there, organize the content in a way that's going to be helpful in designing the new site, right? I have no idea who built this site, Ming. Somebody many years ago built this site, and I don't think WebRight Designs. I don't know who this is. Page not found. That's not good. That page doesn't exist anymore. Theme grill, theme. So yeah, it's just a theme that was installed and then tweaked probably, but there's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of plugins in this thing, and it's not pretty. So again, we've got our target audiences. So I want to now figure out how can we do the research that we need to build this, to rebuild this website and organize the content better than it is currently right now. So as you were saying, Bing, it makes sense in something like this to actually pull in AI into this process. So that's what I did. And I want to kind of walk through real quickly. Well, it probably won't be that quickly, but I want to walk through what I asked and then let's use it and see what's going on. So if you're not familiar with this, this is Claude. This is actually the desktop application. There's a few things on here that would not be on the website. This is my personal account. One of the things that I really love doing with AI is having AI help me write better prompts. And that's kind of it's a weird little hack that a lot of people don't think about. And I do this all the time because AI knows better how to talk to AI than I do. It seems like a lot of times. So, and it will structure things. It'll include things that I don't think about. And we'll see that here as we go through this. Now I've already done these 2 prompts here. So we're just going to kind of read through what I did as an example. And then we'll actually use them live in the Cowork tab. And I'll kind of explain Cowork if you're not familiar with it as well here. Okay, so here was the prompt. Help me create a robust and complete prompt. As you can tell, this is just my way of talking, right? So this is why I want it to help me create these prompts. So help me create a robust and complete prompt for Cowork, so it knows what Cowork is, to research a website and pull in all the content, and I mean all the content, and organize it based on specific target audiences that I will give it. So my thinking here is I'm asking for it to create something that might be a little bit more of a template that I could use for other sites if I wanted to do this again in the future. I want to store the data in a .md file, organized for the following purposes: landing page content, sales content, if any. Basically, I want it to ask me what the sales concept is for each audience. Oh, really? That's interesting. Dan says, I just noticed Laravel changed their tagline to clean stack for artisans and agents. Yeah, they're really diving into I mean, you have to. they're diving into a lot of agent support, so which is cool. So if there's any sort of sales type of desire for that audience, then I want to make sure that it captures that. Supporting content defined in pages for quick development. So I want it to take all the supporting content, put it into pages that that would support, for that specific audience type, because we're going to link to those from those landing pages most likely. We might actually make a different menu for each of our target audiences, so that they see the pages that are most relevant to them, but they can always go back to the home page and find more stuff, right? And then after this, it said it should also report any content that it doesn't think should be used for the website redesign. And then I always like to ask, do you understand? And is there anything else that you think I should include in this master prompt that we're building, right? I want to make sure, I kind of want it to give me some feedback, and I want it to ask me questions if it's doesn't understand something, right? I use the term understand loosely. All right. So then this is what it came back. So it says, I understand what's going on. Here's some things that it's going to suggest. And I didn't respond to the suggestions here. Outside of, did I say no? Okay. I didn't respond to any of the suggestions. And what I've found is if I don't respond to those, it typically will just include them most of the time. So we'll see what happens there. And then I had a few questions. How should Cowork handle content that appears in multiple pages? And these are selections that I made. Flag it separately as repeat content. Should the prompt ask Cowork to suggest which audiences each existing piece of context, or will you define it? Cowork should suggest audiences. That's the whole point. It is for you to do the work, not me. What should Cowork do when it hits gated or logged in protected content? I know it won't hit any of that, but if it did, skip it and flag it. All right, so now it's going to build it out, and it's gave me a prompt, intake, crawl, classification. So it's got a prompt that it has built out for this. All right. And maybe we'll just, we might come back to the second one. Verbatim capture. And then here's the link to the file. All right. So let me show you what that file looks like. This is, in case you were wondering. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Although it's fine. So this is the actual document that it creates, right? This is the markdown file that I asked for. There's a Chrome extension called Markdown Reader, I think, that I like to use that lets me view it just easier to read, like reading like a Markdown reader. Excuse me. But it lets you kind of jump from one thing to another over here too, so it's kind of nice. I like it. Okay, so this is the massive prompt that it came up with, and this is why I wanted Claude to write this rather than me write it, because it's going to go through and it's going to give a lot of requirements and documentation for doing the simple thing that I asked it to do. And so this is really, really helpful. And I can take this, I can go over here, I can toggle raw, I can select it all, and I can paste it into our screen, which we'll do here in a minute. Okay, so let's look at what it created. And again, this is going to take some time, but I think it's really helpful to see how much AI is going to help us in this process. Not just in the doing of it, but even in the planning of it. And this is a step that I think a lot of times, if you're using AI day to day, just coding, or you're asking it questions a lot, you may not think to do something like this. And I think this is helpful even in a development world, to take time and plan a prompt out better that's going to help you get what you want before just like asking it to do random things, right? Okay, so it starts off with your test. This is basically, and this is something that I found with AI as well. It's always good to kind of tell AI what it's going to do first, and then give it all the information. I think sometimes we tend to just kind of be like, here's a bunch of stuff I copy pasted into here, now do this. And I think it gives it a little bit more context before it looks at the context. Gives it context about what it's going to do before it just has a bunch of context of stuff. Yeah, there is a lot of just kind of looks like it's just dumped content in there, Ming, which is exactly why we're doing this, right? So all right, let's look at this. You are conducting your task. You are conducting a full content audit and extraction of an existing website. I don't think you guys can read that probably. Hang on. That might be easier. Here we go. Of his existing website in preparation for a complete redesign. Your job is to systematically crawl every accessible page, capture all content, and reorganize it into structured.md files by audience and purpose. This is a research and organization task. Do not write, improve, or editorialize any content. All right, capture it as is, then flag and classify it. Now we'll probably have it rewrite things as we go, but I just want to see what type of content they have there before we do anything with it. All right, step 1 is intake process. Now this is again asking questions before we get started because I want to maybe be able to reuse this prompt. So I want it to ask me certain things so that it knows what we're doing without me having to hard code that into the prompt itself. So what's the website URL? Who are the target audiences? For each audience listed, what's the primary sales concept? Are there any pages or sections you want to exclude? Do you have any known brand voice descriptors to watch for? That's probably going to be a no. And that might be something I would take out because I actually have another brand prompt we may not get to today. We'll see. So that should be like the first step. It should ask me questions to get more context as to what it's doing. All right, step number 2. These are all the rules for what it's supposed to do when it crawls, what it should capture, right? So AI decided that we should capture the URL, the page title, the heading, any meta description tags. That's cool. Paragraph, section, and block of text, all headings in order. Okay. Calls to action, navigation labels, alt tags on images. Probably would not have thought of that. Any image, videos, and downloadable URLs. Do not download. This is important. So that's good that that's called out. Don't download it. Just get the URLs, right? Forms, field labels, placeholder text, submit button copy. Again, we're not copying the form itself, but give me the information that it's looking for. Testimonials, pricing information, questions and answers, form validation, etc. Okay, so step 3, content classification. After crawling, classify every piece of content using the following rules. Audience assignment. So each content block suggests which target audience is most relevant to. Based on language, terminology, problem or benefit, call to action it supports. Okay, if it's multiple audience unclear, needs review. So this might be something that I would maybe go back and say, let's tweak this a little bit. Let's just copy it. If it's for multiple audiences, let's copy it into all of them. So that might be a change that I would make. Content purpose categories, landing, sales, supporting, social proof, brand. All right, so it's got these different content types. That's cool. Output file structure, website content website overview, site map. So it's actually going to create a number of MD files here, which actually will be pretty good because then we can have Claude go through those files and do evaluations of those, and we have all that content kind of already pre-specified in specific ways. File specifications, URL, date crawled. Okay, so this is good. It's going to give us a date as to when it was last crawled in case it's a website that gets updated frequently. We want to make sure our content's correct. Site map. So this is just going through and explaining all the different MD files and their structure. I think that's probably all we need. Final summary. Okay. So this is really good, right? Because this gives. The important thing about this is going to give the AI very specific things that we want it to do, right? And again, if I wanted to, I could spend more time tweaking this. If there's certain ways, I don't really care, honestly, so much. The way this content is set up is because AI is going to be the one going through it, not me. So there's that. Final summary report. After all files are created, produce a brief summary in the terminal, not a file covering these attributes. And then it ends with important reminders. Never rewrite the content. Always cite the URL. Flag unclear assignments. Repeat content gets its own file. Gated contents flag, etc. Okay, so let's jump over real fast to get rid of the full screen to our Claude. And I'm going to go to the co-work tab. I don't know if you guys use Claude, if you use the Claude whatchamadiel here. I don't know. But we're going to go to the co-work tab. So the cool thing about co-work is it's kind of like an agent that can run and you can come back to it later. You don't have to sit there and wait, and even chats are getting more that way as well too. But you can give it a big project to do, and then you can come back. And based off of the based off of that prompt, we're giving it a pretty big project with lots of things to do. So I'm going to select Opus 4.6. This is my personal again. That's why I have access to that here. And I'm going to trying to decide if I want to upload. I will upload. Add files. Oops, I don't know what happened there. There we go. Don't look at all my stuff. Okay. All right, so co-work website research prompt, and I'll just be like run prompt. Okay. So the first thing it should do is go through, again, let's look at, it just asked me if it can have access to my folder. I said yes. Okay. It should go through and should start doing this intake process, right? So we'll see what it comes up with. All right. Here are my intake questions. Now this is kind of annoying. I wish it would have like asked me one at a time. So that's maybe something I should add to that prompt as well. Make sure questions are asked one at a time. Go through these one at a time. And we'll see here. Give some more space. All right, what's the URL I should crawl? solarroadways.com. Boom. All right. Next question. Come on. Target audiences for the redesign. Okay. So again, the target audiences that we talked about were people concerned or interested in environmentally conscious. Hey, what do you know? Projects. Let's number these. And then the next one was people interested in cool technology. 3 people or businesses interested in solar technology like this. And then 4 investors interested in technology in this sector tech. All right, there's our 4 audiences. All right, for each audience, what's the primary sales concept? Okay, so 1 primary sales concept, we're going to say is NA for environmentally conscious people. For 2, tech enthusiasts, also, for tech enthusiasts, well, no, here we go. So the sales would be, this is kind of the goal. What do we want? How do we want them to interact with this website, right? So we want them to sign up for newsletter. And we'll do that for both of them. And then for 3, tech buyers, we want them to fill out free sale form. And then 4, we want them to fill out investor contact. All right. So those are the 4 kind of our CTAs, our call to actions that we want it to do. All right, and let's see what it comes up with. Any pages you want to exclude? No. I think the last one is the brand thing. Known brand voice descriptors, no. Okay. So now, let's pull this guy open. Okay, so now it should start following the process. It's going to summarize everything here. Getting started on the crawl. So over here, it's given me like specific steps that it's going to create. And this is why, again, telling Claude to create a prompt for cowork, being specific like that is really, really important. So hang on one second. I want to I don't know if there's a way to, sorry, cancel. Okay, so I don't know if does it have access to this? It doesn't have access to this, I don't think. All right, so it's asking, can I look at stuff? We'll just allow it for this website. What other options? Yeah, we'll allow for this website. Boom. All right. So let me, oh good, I got rid of that. Okay, so let me show you what's going on over here. So this is a browser because I connected the browser to Claude. Actually, let me rearrange this here. So it's going through and it is, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's using the browser. So this is Claude interacting with the browser, and we'll see if it actually changes. So Ming, you changed. All the content is stored in the database, in the WordPress database. So again, because this is a WordPress website, are you talking about where the content's stored from Claude? So I have a file in Claude that it has access to. So I can go to the folder. I can open up that folder on my desktop. So, and this is where the output would be from. So I created a folder and then I assigned it for it to be able to store information there. So as you can see, it's actually going through the website right now via a web browser. Now it uses a web fetch option as well, but it can, if you connect your web browser to it, it'll actually use the web browser to do this type of research, which is, I think it's pretty cool. Just built in. I'm not clicking on anything over here. It's doing it all on its own. So that's kind of fun. Anyway, so it's going through, it's looking at all the content. I've found additional subpages. Let me crawl every page. Good. Let me save the data collected so far and continue crawling. So again, this is something that, I mean, this might take a good amount of time, right? We want to make sure that it's doing everything that we want it to do. It's getting all of the information that we want it to get. What's interesting is it's actually connected to all these browsers, but this is the one that it's interacting with. See, now it's on videos. So I just think this stuff is cool. Like, I don't think we'll have the free coloring book download on the new website. That just doesn't seem to match any of the target audiences that we're looking for. Excuse me. So as it's going through and it's doing this, we can do other things. You know, let's say I'm doing multiple websites. I could be working on prompts for other websites. I could be working on getting the application set up in my local dev environment, right? So there's lots of things that I can be doing now while it's going through and it's just doing all the research that we've asked it to do. And it's going through, it's collecting more, and let's see. I don't know. That's the context. Click on the folder again. Where is it? Where did it pop up? Over here. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So let me pull this guy over so you can see what's happening in here. So we've got our research folder, which is the folder that I gave it access to. And then it's putting in website content audit. Here, let me make that a little bit bigger. Website content audit, audiences, and then it's got our different audiences here. So it's still doing a lot of research. It's not really putting anything into files yet, but this is the structure that it said it would use. So we can kind of see that. It's following those requirements so far. Extracting content from pages as they're crawled. I do think it's interesting. I don't see any content though. It must be storing it in memory, which just scares me a little bit. Dan says, what do you think about the cost of context switching? I think it's going to get worse. Because let me switch this over while it's thinking. And while we're talking, I think context switching is going to be a bigger problem than it ever has been, because with the use of AI, we don't think even as much as we used to. And this is a good case in point, right? I am having AI do stuff that we would have to pay somebody to do in the past, you know. Somebody's job would have to be going and getting all this content, or we'd require the client to do it, and it would be probably incomplete most of the time, or we would just start from completely from scratch and skip this because of the time that it costs. But now we're dealing with developers who are probably working on multiple projects at the same time, and they're not just writing the code, they're managing AI on those projects. And I don't think that that's necessarily bad, but I think that's something that we do have to keep in mind. So context switching is when you're thinking about one thing and you have to switch to a different thing to think about, right? A lot of times when we think about this, it comes up a lot when people interrupt you. That's where a lot of times this context switching issue comes up. Let's say you're working, your head's down, you're working on something in your project, and somebody comes up and asks for help with something. You're a senior dev, junior dev comes up, asks for help. You've now got to stop thinking about what you were working on, focus on what they're working on, which might take a few seconds just to kind of flush that out and start looking at what they're working on. Get into the understanding of what they have going on, and understand the problem, help them with that problem, and then you've got to somehow flush that and go back to what you're working on. So that's the idea of context switching, right? And I think that's only going to get worse, because now context switching is almost becoming a required skill with the use of AI. So the more we lean on AI to do more thinking, more planning, the more we lean on AI to do code tasks, the less oftentimes we're paying attention to what's going on. And so the easier it is to context switch, but that means we'll be doing it a lot more. And I think at the end of the day, it'll actually become a bigger problem than what it has been in the past. Because typically in a context switching environment, you would switch context from one thing to one other thing. And I think what's going to happen now is we're going to end up with people context switching from several things to several other things, and switching context between there. And I think if we're not careful, we're going to find out that AI actually causes devs to burn out faster, because they can't just focus on one thing and knock it out. They're going to probably be multi-directional, and that sounds good, but I think for most people that's actually not, especially most developers. I think most people who are development minded probably do better with singular tasks. Overall, I think that's a generalization that I'm willing to claim. So I think it's going to get worse. I think the context switching is going to get worse over time. Yes, that's true. I mean, there are some tasks that AI can basically automate. But when you do that, and again, I think you should do that. I think we should take advantage of the tools that we have at our disposal. When you do that, though, we have to understand that we're not paying attention and we're not working as hard and we're not as focused on what is happening with those tasks. And so context switching becomes even more common and potentially more problematic. Bing says, but with AI, I really need to be specific, which makes context switching much harder. Exactly. So that's a great point, Bing, right? So now that we're kind of requiring everybody to do context switching, we're also making them think not just about code and the problem, but we're making them think how to communicate that problem and that desire with AI. So we're making more context switching because the tools make it easier, but we're still really enforcing the same level of effort from a thinking standpoint. We just have to think about something different. So I think that's where that context switching is going to be kind of worse over time. Okay, let's check back in with our co-work here. Still going through some blog. See 2 pages of blog posts. Went through all those. So you can kind of go through and see all the different things that it did in each of these little sections. I think it's cool. Execute JavaScript, etc. Let's take a look over here. Looks like it's still on a blog page. I wonder if it's pulling all the comments. I didn't think about that. That would be a good thing again to maybe in the prompts. I don't want the comments, so maybe add that. If you're scraping blog posts. So for example, where would we put that? We might put that somewhere in here in these crawl rules. If it's a blog post that has comments, don't pull the comments, right? So we would do something like that. Okay, so it thinks that it's crawled everything. And now it's going to build all of the audit files based on the structure that we defined again in our prompt, or really that Claude defined in our prompt here for us. And that's down here in the file specifications. So we should start seeing these files being created. We've got the overview, sitemap, brand voice, which probably won't have a whole lot in it, or at least we'll probably do something else with it later. Repeated content, do not use, things like that. So come back over here, we can see, let's open this up. So it's created the site overview, sitemap, brand voice, repeated content, and it's starting to pull those in. So these are things that we could click on and look at here. I like looking at them in my browser but more though. So let's do this. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Well, actually it might be okay. Let's do this. So we're starting to get some of these files. These are not being filled out yet. So we're starting to see those. We'll take a look at them here in a second. Oop, that's not what I want to close that. Create a document identifying repeated content across the website pages. Excellent. And I think because I have this zoomed in, it won't let me scroll as well. Like it doesn't let me interact with this. Great. But I want you guys to be able to see and read what's going on here. Markdown files. That's what MD stands for, Ming. Markdown files are, use them for like all your readmes are markdown. It's just a way of adding, markdown is a way of adding like headers and highlighting things like that, using a specific kind of code type structure. Again, I can go look at the raw file of this. So this would be a H1, H2, H3. That's what those hashes are for. But you can use things like this to build out a table in your document. And then if you have an MD reader, that can translate it into a nice view based on that. That's what you get. So AI really likes Markdown files, because it's really, like I said, it's more of a code way of creating documents. But it gives it substance, like hierarchical substance and things like that. Um, so there. CI/CD pipelines can be automated easily with AI agent platforms. There's lots of AI platforms out. I'm pretty sure many companies are adopting that now, which reduces the DevOps team. They are adopting it, absolutely. The question is, how good is it? In fact, I actually saw a post from Laravel about how they had set something up to where a bug was found, but they have this monitoring system called Nightwatch, and I think it's Nightwatch, and the monitoring system saw the issue that was happening, created a ticket, and then a web agent picked up that ticket, made the fix, pushed the fix to the repository, got reviewed, got approved, went into production, and basically self-healed the application, is kind of what they call it, right? That is a lot of trust to place in an automated process. I don't think I'm there yet. I'm not there yet. I don't have to think about it. I'm not there yet. I'm not at a place where I put that much trust in that process. So other people are welcome to do that, but not me. All right. So we're getting more files now. We're starting to see these end up in our specific audience pages. But let's take a look at some of these other files here. Okay, so here's our site overview. Again, nothing really amazing here. This is interesting. So it did click on the link to that link that we looked at earlier. This let me move myself for these pages here. Boop, boop, boop. Nope. Come on. Nope. Sorry. There we go. Come on over here. Okay. Sorry, it takes me a minute sometimes to remember how to do these things. Especially since it's been so long. So let me increase this size so you can see a little bit better. Okay. So date crawled, pages found 30. 2 errors that link to the company that maybe doesn't even exist anymore. So target audience is defined, sales concepts, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so nothing real amazing there. Sitemap. This is interesting. Okay, so now we have really an idea of what the original sitemap was, in case, so that we can compare maybe how we want to do things versus how they were doing things in the past. I like having documentation of old stuff so that we can compare the new stuff. So this might be something. They don't have anything for SR5, which is the model that they're currently on, which is interesting. So one of the problems that I mentioned last week is we tend to build websites with the content that we want people to see and not necessarily focus on the audiences. So that's why over here, again, we had this prompt start building out information and content based on the content that's there, information and content for specific audiences. All right. I don't care about the brand voice really. I just think I want to see what it kind of came up with. Key language, real solution, solar roadies, conversional, grassroots. So interesting. Okay. Repeated content. Let's see. So content, ways to help. And that's kind of like a consistent thing. I think down here, ways to help. So this is in like their footer. So that's why it's in all the pages, right? So that might still be, it's calling it out, but that might still be something that we want to put on all the pages. Read more. Again, I think this is footer stuff, headquarters block. So not a ton of repeated stuff, which is interesting. It's mostly just template stuff that it found that's repeated content. So that's cool. Do not use. Let's see. Yeah, don't use that link because that's not going to be us anyway. Google social media icon. SolarWave.com, possibly other pages. Google Plus was shut down in April of 2019. Wow. Well, there you go. That might be a good reason not to use that. Stumble upon social media icon shut down in 2018. See, this is good stuff. This is good stuff for just a plain audit. And again, there's probably tools that are already built that you could use to do this. It's much better. But I mean, this just ran on my machine in the last. It took 10 minutes, and we've got some stuff here that is old, right? 2018. Film is currently being shown in some U.S. theaters before Star Wars. Yeah, that's not true anymore. So, minimal content, coloring page, high-res images, camera metadata is visible. Interesting. Data to calculations. Yeah. Calculations reference data from 2001. Projected to 2020. We're past that. So these are good call outs of stuff that we don't want to include because it's irrelevant, right? Most of it's irrelevant. All right. Content gaps. Now this is interesting. The newsletter sign up form. So I think they actually do have a newsletter sign up form. That is it on the contact us page? Maybe it got taken out. Oh, there's not a form. You have to send them an email, and you probably can't even read that. Yeah, you have to send them an email to newsletter@solarroadways.com to get on their newsletter there. So yeah, there is no form. Okay. Pre-sale purchase order form, that doesn't exist yet. Investor contact form. I don't think that exists yet. I think everything's been done by email so far. So these are good things. Pricing, cost information, that's not out there. I don't think they quite have that figured out yet. So that just might be a TBD page. Installation examples. There actually are some of those because they've done actually multiple projects on different government bases. So there are some of those. Technical specification sheet, recent news updates, testimonials. Okay, so we've got kind of a gap analysis based on the audiences that we gave it and the information that's currently on the website and what it thinks those audiences would be interested in. All right, so that's going to be really helpful. CTA inventory. Every page header. Learn more, contact us. Read more. Where it goes. Skip content. Or skip to the content. I thought it was skip content. Skip this. I don't want to read it. So it has all of this CTAs, and it's like the site is notably light on CTAs. CTAs call to action, in case you don't know. Let's see. There's a couple other things here that I missed. Ming says you need pagination for the posts to optimize performance on the browser. Yeah, probably. Dan says, why is it that with AI, we're automating all the good parts of development? All we're left with is managerial duties, code reviews, and endless context switching where you're the PM for like 10 projects. The reason for that is because that's the stuff that AI does well. At the end of the day, we're going to use AI for the things that it does well. And the things that it does well are the things that probably got us into writing code in the first place. Was the code, being able to create something. Unfortunately, I think that to me that's the only explanation, is that's what it's good at. And so we find what it's good at and we use it to make things faster, not necessarily better, but to make things faster. Let me pull that here a little bit. Make this a little bit more visible. There we go. All right. So that's our CTA inventory, media inventory. So you've got number of videos, number of photos, calling out what has alt text and what doesn't, PDF image, social media icons don't have alt text. Interesting. Okay. All right. So we've got kind of a website content audit overviews for all these different things. Yeah, I don't know that dev skills will totally become obsolete, Ming, but they're becoming less important, especially if you're okay with lower quality code. Um, a lot of people are coming to this idea that if you hang on, let me switch this. So a lot of people are coming to this idea that it's okay to have lower quality code as long as you have AI to sift through that low quality code, right? This is kind of where that concept of vibe coding ekes its way into the real world of development. It doesn't matter if my code base is, here's the thought process, is that it doesn't matter if my code base is spaghetti code, because AI can sift through the spaghetti code and figure it out. The problem is that in my experience, AI is not 100% reliable on filtering through spaghetti code. It can look like it is, but it doesn't create code that over time is going to be easier to audit, right? So one of the great things about frameworks is frameworks give you a framework of the way that things should be written and stored within the code base. Having a framework makes it much easier for AI to do the things that it needs to do, whether it's writing the code or knowing where the code is supposed to be. And I think that's kind of a thing where if you're just building websites willy-nilly, then you're going to hit a point where AI takes longer and longer and longer to do things, just like a dev would take longer and longer and longer to do things, because it's got to spend more and more time researching and trying to figure out what the issues are. So really, we're kind of restarting the development issue life cycle, right? Where we just build whatever we want, however we want, and then eventually we're going to hit a point where we're really in trouble because it takes forever to find things, to tweak things. AI will duplicate stuff. And so duplication is not great. If you can abstract some things to make sure that, reuse it, template some things, that all of that is good coding practices because it saved us time as developers over the years. And that's what frameworks are for. Even if you're not conscious of what it's doing, even within a framework, you'll find that AI will start reimagining things. And again, we have to understand generative AI. What the concept of generative AI is that theoretically it could generate the same product multiple times differently, because just generative AI on its own isn't going to follow any set rules. So that's why we have to create rules for it to try to get the same thing every time. That's why people spend lots of money training models to get the same thing every time, because generative AI doesn't naturally do that. And so that's something that we have to be mindful of when we just let AI write tons of code. If we don't have good guardrails in place, and if we're not staying on top of it, it's going to start following bad practices, not because it hasn't been programmed well, but because of its inherent nature of being a generative application, right? So that's why I can tell it to rewrite something and it will rewrite it because it'll look completely different, even without giving it any prompts. Just be like, hey, try again. And so that's something that we need to understand. It will create slop, and then it will have to take more time and more tokens thinking through that slop. So this is where human management is really, really important with AI, because it helps keep our costs low, and it helps make sure that that the AI doesn't fall into the same traps that we would fall into if we were not building guardrails ourselves around our projects and how we do things. So Ming says, you just need good fundamentals and you give AI the instructions you want it to build. You can't just build anything with AI and hope for the best. You still need to check it, like my friend's project. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would even go farther to say you don't need to just check it. I think you still need to be involved. And this is kind of going back to Aaron Francis's application that we looked at earlier. And why I moved away from that, building a project similar to that myself, is in the console. If you're just running Claude Code in the console, it is not as easy to stay on top of what Claude is doing when you give it a task. You can set it up and now, even if you're telling it, hey, I want to approve everything, the console just isn't a great UI for that, frankly. Does it work? Sure. It's just not the best UI. I find having the AI next to the actual file structure and being able to see the files, click on the files in the AI, see them, review them. Even if I'm letting it go and just kind of do its thing, I still want to be able to review it and see what it's doing. I always try to do things in a Git repository and have a branch for each thing I want AI to be working on. So I don't typically have multiple AIs working on a single project at a time. For that purpose, I don't want multiple versions of the application running and stored on my local machine. But yeah, so that's why I moved away from that, because I want to see what's going on as the process goes, or at least be able to review it quickly without having to go through a PR. I want to see the files that it changed along the way. Dan says building the fundamentals is going to get harder and harder in the future. Yeah. Again, this is a cyclical thing, right? So every time we reach a place where we're making life easier for ourselves on the development journey, we find that we run into a new issue, right? And that new issue takes up our time. And so now our developers are having to learn this new thing, new skill that we have to learn in order to keep up with the times. That's just going to keep happening. It is what it is. The question is, can we adapt and keep moving forward? So yeah, and that's the other thing too. Ming, you bring up a good point. AI doesn't always fix things with the context of the entire application in mind, right? So a fix that it might make on something may end up breaking something else, and it doesn't know anything about it. This is where making sure that you have good quality tests on your project is important, and making sure that AI writes those tests for everything that it builds, so that hopefully if it does do a breaking change, it will run the tests and run the whole test suite and see that there was a failure and be able to fix that. But it'd be better if it understood what it was doing from the start and understood the impact of it. Now it's interesting. Sometimes it will catch up on those things. I find that happens more in very small projects versus larger projects where it just can't keep the full knowledge of the context. I think some other things that you can do from a process standpoint is make sure that it keeps track of what it's built and keeps track of how things that it's building impact other things. One of the best things you can do with AI is prompt it as it does things to keep records of things and to document what it's done. So not just for way future issues, but even for the next session. So the next session has an idea of what we've done, what we've accomplished, without having to do a full search of the code base. Ming says, on one of my projects, I had to keep going around in circles and specify what I wanted it to fix. In the end, I just fixed it without AI. Yeah. And again, that's where, so that's where, going way back to the beginning of our discussion, um, of our live stream, that's where I think doing a debugging thing rather than a building thing is so much more valuable, because you see what the person knows based on what they can fix and what they can find, you know. And you were able to recognize the issue, and I've done that before too. You know, it's going through and I know what the problem is. The problem is something with routes, and it's lost in the mire and the muck of controllers or something like that, trying to figure out why the controller isn't returning something. And I know the issue is that it's something that's, I'm literally looking at the route file, and I can see the problem is with how the route is defined, or where it's pointing or something like that, right? And but it just doesn't. It'll spend 10 minutes where I can spend 10 seconds fixing it, right? So AI is not the be all end all of everything, and I think it's important for us to consider that, when we're not just when we're thinking about, you know, our time and what we use our time for, but even in the process of what we're building. um, AI is not the solution for everything. If I think from like a user interaction standpoint, so not everything that we want to do needs to be a chat interface. I actually posted about this few weeks ago, I think, on LinkedIn. But there's the initial instinct is to provide chat interfaces for people to have AI do stuff in their application. Well, when you think about the process of how AI works, if you understand the process of how AI works, that is not necessarily the most efficient thing to use in your application. It's great, and there are great use cases for it, but there are a lot of things that really it makes more sense to build a process and have it something that a user just clicks a button, right? Um, I would rather click 5 buttons and have something that runs in 5 seconds than chat with AI for a minute to get the same result. And that's where hopefully we're starting to see people catching on to that, because AI has to take in the question or the prompt that you give it. It's then got to look at any internal prompts, so system prompts that have been defined, and how it's supposed to it's supposed to respond to what you've asked. And then it's got to go do the thing, and then it's got to oftentimes restructure whatever it found, or whatever it came up with, and then it's got to display that in some way to the user. All of that stuff takes time. Whereas if I can click a couple of buttons and there's just an already built process that does the thing, that's faster. And so not every AI is not the best solution for every problem. And I think it's important for us to remember that, not just for our programming, but for life. We need to become not so dependent on AI that it actually makes things slower for our lives. Now, things like this, where we can, you know, pass along projects to it and kind of let it figure out, you know, what we want it to do. That would be that's a great thing. Something that would take me a lot of time, that I don't have a predefined process for. This is a great thing for AI to jump into, but it's not always the perfect option. And so we just need to be careful to make sure that we're not actually fooling ourselves into thinking that we're faster, but evaluate how we're using AI, making sure that we are faster. Okay, so final summary. Pages discovered. This is all the information. So we've got no buyer-facing content exists. Investors, not really a whole lot of investor information. Most of the content found was for cool tech enthusiasts. No, Dan, not every problem is solved by your one hammer. I'm sorry. Buy some more tools. Content gaps, no newsletter sign up, free investor forums, content published since December 21st, 2021. Issues, blah, blah, blah. View the complete audit. And that's where our content audit is. What is this? Oh, that's just taking me to the folder. Okay. Oh, that's over. It popped up over OBS, and that was driving me crazy. Okay. Nope, it's not perfect for everything, right? Okay, so the next step, and we won't do this today. Next week, well, actually, let's just see what it comes back with. Let's do a new task, and I'm going to add a file or photo. Brand research. Okay. So this is a second one that I asked Claude to help me with back over in the chat. So I said, create a prompt for cowork to research websites and any connected social accounts. I think that's important. Any connected social accounts or linked public entities that the company uses. So these are things that are associated. So maybe they have some different branding that they're using on multiple different sites. Maybe it's not all consistent. So I want to see what else they're using to get a full and complete understanding of the brand and color schemes. End result should be a .md file, blah, blah, blah. And so it asked me some questions, had some suggestions for things it should include. And then it's got 4 steps of research, 2 steps of deliverables. And so we just pasted that added that to our cowork. And we'll just say run prompt. And we'll see if we can get this done in the next 15 minutes. At least see what it comes back with. And again, obviously we're discussing these things. So, we're having this is something I could set or run and go. I could have had both of them running at the same time if I wanted to, which is nice as well, except it eats up tokens faster if you have more things going on. So, I just showed my email usage, but I've only used 3% of my usage in the last 5 hours, so that's not bad. All right. Okay, so we'll answer our questions here. 1. Two, industry or market does the company operate in? Solar energy. What are 2 closest competitors? Aspiring brand unknown. Are there any brand elements that are strictly off limits to change? Let's say no. Is there an existing brand guide? Or no. Okay. So it asked me the initial questions, and now it should start doing the research, I believe. We didn't actually look at this, so let me see if I can open that up. Brand. Okay, so here's our master prompt for this. Questions that it was supposed to ask, and it did. That's good. So now it's going to do extraction. Let's see if it's pulling anything from here. I don't see any action on here. Oh, hey, let's allow it. Is it going to pop up in the same thing? It changed. So yes, it is. I think it's going to use this one that it was using before. All right, navigated, took a screenshot, extracting CSS colors and fonts. That's good. Social media links. Take screenshots of different pages. Okay, so it's taking multiple screenshots. Let's see if it navigates anywhere. It'll navigate where it wants to. We've already seen it do that. Extracted logo, favicon, metadata. That's good. So again, it's got these steps over here. Audit social media and public entities. Conduct competitor industry benchmarking. So it's going to do several things here. And again, for some reason, when I zoom in on it, it doesn't like to. That's called bad development. If you zoom in on something within, just using, like it should allow for that to be useful. But come on, Anthropic, you can do better. It's kind of funny. We've had up to like 6 or 7 people actually on the stream at one time, which is cool. We're not doing anything with code. Maybe that's why they dropped off. We are just not that interesting. At least I'm not. Let's see. Ming says next is discussion on React versus ancient PHP. Ancient PHP, you have to understand. Laravel is modern PHP. PHP is adapting and changing and growing and being a better version of itself. How dare you talk about PHP like that? I'm going to kick you out. Just kidding. All right, homepage and footer. Let me check their blog and specific pages, social media profiles, full CSS details, captured enough website data. Let me run an accessibility contrast check. Ooh, checking for accessibility. That's probably a good thing. Instagram, sure. Here's their Instagram account. Give it some help. Yeah, it was. I forget it. What are we on now? I should go look. I don't know. Functional programming is for people who don't understand objects. I'll be honest, I've never really seen the draw of functional programming. All right, it wants to check Facebook now. I'm only doing, sometimes I'll give it full reign, sometimes I'll want to do everything. I want to see what it's wanting to look at first before I start letting it. Facebook page. I think the big thing it's going to come back with is the solar roadways. Logo is probably the most consistent thing that they have. So go to Twitter. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously use cases for it. I've never needed it, frankly. For the types of projects that I've built, I've not needed specifically functional programming versus OOP. I thought I already accepted that. That is interesting. They have a lot of followers, but nothing's posted. Huh. But it says it has 10,000 posts. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's because I'm not logged in. Let's see. Did somebody else say something? No? Okay. All right, so again, it's going through all of their social stuff, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. We might go over a little bit here. I honestly didn't think we were going to be doing this a whole, 2 hours, but it took a while to walk through everything, and you guys have been gracious in filling up the time with conversation, so that's always good. And thus the functional argument continues. What way by Cole? I don't even know what this is. Couple of competitor aspirational brand websites. Okay, so let's see what this is. Oh, this is French. That's why. Interesting. So it did a search for sun power or in phase energy website design. Interesting. Took a screenshot. So we're going to go through several competitor websites now. That's a nice looking website. Ooh, I can get 1%, 10% cash back. Must be something running. So this is a battery company? Not exactly the same thing. Oh, they get some of their battery from solar panels. Okay, I see that. The one thing for solar roadways is it's pretty unique concept, which is cool. So I think here's my 2 cents on this is object oriented programming makes more sense for the average developer because we live in a world of objects, and it makes it makes sense as to how we think about life, right? I don't think about life as a series of actions. I think about life as relating to things and people, right? And when I think about things and people, they have attributes, right? There are things that I know about them. Um, I think most people think in terms of objects, and so object oriented programming makes more sense. It's easier to understand what we're working with a lot of times. Um, I think you can mix both of them, right? I think you can have uh, packages and scripts that are more efficient because they're more functional than they are object oriented. But I think for the way that we think about life, um, object oriented programming makes more sense. Think about a web application, right? We think in terms of objects in a web application. I think in terms of contacts, or as in organizations, or widgets, or actions. Even actions are really more like uh, workflows. You know, a workflow isn't necessarily a programming thing. It's something that I think of it as an entity. You know, um, but I think there are aspects of workflows, for example, that can be packaged more as just a functional process, and I think that makes it more efficient. Um, yeah, exactly. Dan says OOP and functional programming are valid. Building a game, use OOP. Building a pipeline, maybe use a functional programming. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like there are use cases for both, and I think the use case has more to do with um, how we think about things. You know, again, so your example of a game, right? You're dealing with human interaction. I think that to me is probably the biggest key, right? So if a human is going to interact with it, object oriented programming makes more sense because that's the way that humans think. If a human's not interacting with it, then functional programming is probably better and more efficient. So again, to your point, so things like APIs, stuff like that, that's functional programming is much better. And even in things like Laravel, you're really, even though you're dealing with objects, the objects are there as objects because of the user interaction, right? Well, and because Laravel's OOP, but you can still use functional programming concepts within that paradigm. So I think it's important to not throw the baby out with the bathwater on either side, but rather find the best solution for each of the scenarios that you're working with. So just out of curiosity, because I've gotten into this really bad habit of shuffling playing cards, and can you guys hear this? And can you hear it while I'm talking? That's the other question that I have. If you can't hear it, great. Then I'm gonna use this and to keep my hands busy. But no, I'll put them down. I'm just interested to see if it comes up. Grandpa Dave has a second job. Oh no, not dealing cards. That's for sure. I use a very tiny stack. So I actually had this when I went to Laracon last year. One of the giveaways was this game, Cards Against Artisans, and I've never played the game because I don't care for it. But it has a whole bunch of cards, and all of these, you probably can't tell in here, but all of these cards are broken from shuffling them all. And I only have a few cards left from this deck. So they made it about 6 months, but I have these are cards that have not been shuffled yet that's left from this deck, and I do them in these small piles as I go. So that it's just one of those things, like, especially if I'm thinking about something. My wife says it's called stemming. I think she's just trying to make me more autistic than I am. So there you go. I've been training to deal in ways that they won't let you deal. Because I do it in a way that you can see the bottom card, and that doesn't work for casinos. So yeah, no second job for me on the casino front for sure. All right, let's see what's coming up here. I have enough competitor data to compile everything. Let me verify the contrast ratio claims in my modernization suggestions. Some contrast ratios need corrections. Okay, great. Good, now I have accurate values. Now fix option 3 with corrected colors. The brand audit is complete. Here's what I found and delivered. Key findings: the site runs on a dated WordPress theme. Excellent. With critical accessibility failures, I should say. The primary brand color is teal. Also not good. Only achieves this contrast ratio. Frankly, I have no idea what that means. Social presence is fragmented. Okay. 3 modernization directions proposed. Clean infrastructure authority. Repositions as a serious engineering company. Okay. So what it's saying is this doesn't scream professional, right? That's what it's saying. This doesn't scream professional. Bold Innovation Lab dark mode first designs that turn the glowing LED panels into the hero visual motif. I kind of like that. I'm not a big dark mode person, but I think that's probably good for this type of website. Community powered feature honors the grassroots Solar community while upgrading craft. Warm green and burnt orange palette. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I didn't give this a folder to use, I don't think. So I'll just see if I can open this in Google Chrome. I'm going to copy this over here. Nope, not that one. We'll do over here. All right, increase this a little bit for you. Brand audit, current brand snapshot, taglines, brand personality, overall visual maturity, dated and inconsistent. Okay. So this is really good. This WCAG status just tells us whether the accessibility is good or not. So there's some issues from an accessibility standpoint, and I would say that that's very true. Even just looking at what was that page we were looking at a minute ago? Yeah. So like I could barely read this newsletter text. It's a nice color. It just doesn't work for, what we're currently dealing with there. So unfortunately. Okay, so we've got those things. Primary and secondary brand colors are both used extensively. Typography, Railway, HVB, I don't even know what that is. Montserrat, Times. So it's using several different fonts. It's not necessarily a bad thing, depending on where you're using them, why you're using them. Logo, colors used, yellow, gold, gradient, blah, blah, blah. imagery style, photography style, mixed, image treatment, full color, subject matters, heavy emphasis on glowing LED panels, founders personally, and physical prototypes. So that's good. Interesting observation. Let's see, motion animation, page load animations. That's interesting. It didn't catch the page load animations. So if I go here, it actually does have a page load animation. So it's interesting that it didn't catch that. Scroll trigger effects, hover states. So we've got some stuff here. Evaluation of the social and platform audit. Logo. Yeah, I'm not going to read through all this here. Here's our cross-platform consistency. Teal is only used on the website, so that's interesting. We've got the logo used consistently. Pretty much nothing else is used consistently, just the logo. And that's what I said my observations were as well. Competitor industry bookmark benchmarking. That's interesting. Solar Road. Industrial adjacent benchmarks, emphasis energy, sun power. So let's look at those. Accessibility report. Here's our things that are failing and passing, things that look good. Modernization, option 1, Clean Infrastructure Authority. Concept summary: reposition Solar Roadways as a serious, credible infrastructure technology company, strip away the grassroots crowdfunding aesthetic, and replace it with a clean, engineering forward design that communicates institutional trust, ethical precision, and proven capability. Think less Kickstarter project and more company building the roads of the future. All right, I think that's really good feedback for this website. Again, because really they've been in that crowdfunding mode from the beginning. That's where I was introduced to them, and so the website has really kind of been oriented around that. But as it matures into an actual company now, we definitely want it to be have that authoritative company look and feel, right? So this is really good. Deep forest teal infrastructure. So the next thing is to take all of these recommendations and then turn that into a design. So we are going to look at that next week and see what AI can do to help us with some of those design options. But yeah, so obviously, again, we just spent 2 hours. Not all of that 2 hours would be spent necessarily in this. This is something that we can have. We can run it. We can set it and forget it. I spent about 5 minutes getting the actual prompts created by AI before we started the live stream. So, actual effort put into this from my standpoint, maybe 30 minutes or so. I would go through and read all these things. I probably will go through and read all of the audience content stuff. We didn't really dig into that. And so I'm gonna want to look at that and see how we're gonna build that content. We might just accept it as is for now, and then tweak it later. But I want to see how we can use AI in this process to plan everything out as well as we can. And then next week we'll take some of this information that is developed for us and maybe have it build out one of the landing pages using AI and just see what it comes up with from a design standpoint. And then we'll maybe look at what are some ways that we can help the design, help the AI design things a little bit better. Like I said, that what was that solo term? So like solo term, the main page is very obviously designed by AI. At least the header is. It's just the way that it always does it. So maybe we find some ways to help AI design things differently moving forward. So that might be a prompt that we ask AI to help us write. So there you go. Anyway, so thanks for jumping on, everybody. Great conversation today. Lots of different things, and then hopefully this is interesting. And as we move forward to actually building something out, hopefully you'll see that even with AI, there's still a ton of work. There's still a lot of stuff that we have to do in order to develop a good product for our client. So hopefully AI will help us do that faster, but it'll probably bring up some issues along the way as we go as well. So thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Hope it was interesting for you all. Have a great day, and I believe I will see you all next week. If for some reason I won't, I will be posting something on the YouTube channel and probably Discord if I can't make it next week for some reason. As far as I know, I should be available here 10 a.m. Central. I think we're standard time now. I don't know, Central United States time, Kansas City, Missouri. So that's my time. That's when we'll be here 10 a.m. next Saturday. And have a great weekend.